Perfect. All right, cool. We are recording now, and without further ado, I will pass it over to Taylor and Rod.
Thank you. Let me make sure that this shares properly. I can bring up the presentation that we'd like to walk through with everybody. And let's start this. Please start. Okay, as long as everybody can see this, assuming you can, I'm going to begin my portion of the presentation. So good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. As Alex pointed out, my name is Rod Fleming, and I'm here today with Taylor Santa. And we're pretty excited to walk you all through this presentation outlining our adhesive solutions specifically designed to address some challenges that you all face in the sign and display, but specifically the sign industry. So today, here's what we like to cover. We're going to start with a brief overview of IPS Corporation and why IPS Adhesives has become a trusted leader in this market. Then we're going to move into some real-world challenges manufacturers face. Then into the different types of bonding methods available. And then, of course, we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into our core structural adhesive products. We're going to wrap up. Taylor will take over at a certain point to kind of wrap up with some guidance on choosing the right type of adhesives, and then briefly touch on some safety considerations, as well as leaving time to answer your questions at the end of this presentation. So, having said all that, IPS Adhesives is a wholly owned subsidiary of IPS Corporation, which was established back in 1954 as the inventor of solvent cements for PVC pipe applications. We operate ISO 9001 certified plants in Durham, North Carolina, outside of Tampa, Florida, in Largo, outside of Los Angeles, California, in Gardena, as well as in the north of the UK in Newcastle. Across this IPS Adhesives, we basically provide a strong portfolio of adhesive brands. Specifically today, we're going to focus on the Weld-On Sign and Display brand, as well as a couple of the products from the SiGrip structural adhesives. However, we do manufacture a variety of compounds as well as structural adhesives for the marine industry. We are the world's largest manufacturer of surfacing adhesives for kitchen countertop installation, as well as one of the world's foremost providers of aftercare products for kitchen installation as well as upgrades. Why would you choose IPS Adhesives as your trusted supplier and partner? Well, simply put, we deliver a significant number of high-performance, industry-tested products, and then we're going to support them with full-scale laboratory testing capabilities, and we'll provide an on-site as well as online training ability to support you, your reps, as well as your customers in the field. What are some of the challenges you and your customers are going to face with respect to fabricating electrical signage? Well, you're often bonding dissimilar materials, whether that be acrylic to metal, polycarbonate to aluminum, ABS to various substrates. You may need an adhesive that resists sagging on a vertical surface. You're going to need to take into consideration specific working times, whether you need an adhesive to be faster or to be slower. You're going to need to consider the environmental exposures that this product, your end product, or our adhesives are going to face, as well as whether or not you need an optically clear product and or a UL compliant product. We can help you through all of these considerations, all of these challenges, so that you and your customer are choosing the right adhesive for the job. As far as types of bonding, typically with respect to electrical sign, you're going to either be dealing with solvent welding, multi-part adhesives, or structural adhesives as far as the applications to build the actual sign, whether that be a channel letter, a cabinet, a pylon. With respect to solvent welding, this is primarily going to be the application employed to build channel letters. So for us, we provide Weld-On 3. Another example would be Weld-On 16. These are one-part solvent cements, typically very, very fast working times, thin water consistency viscosities. Again, perfect examples would be Weld-On 3 backed with 16 with respect to manufacturing channel letters. As far as multi-part adhesives, these are going to be your 2 to 3-part adhesives. A great example of this that's widely used would be Weld-On 40 or Weld-On 42, typically for acrylic bonding. Weld-On 40 is a hand mixed product so that you can actually control the working time for your specific application. These products tend to yield a museum quality joint, crystal clear bonding. Again, highly specialized, hand mixed, 2 to 3-part adhesives. The final bonding type would be your structural adhesives. These are going to be your 2-part methacrylic based, multiple working times. These are cartridged goods that are going to require the use of a dispensing gun as well as mixing tips. And these structural adhesives will yield a high strength bond for critical structural applications. An example of one of our structural adhesives, this being Weld-On 45, which is the workhorse in our product lineup. EM sells quite a bit of this across their customer base. This is a high strength 2-part methacrylic adhesive, very fast working time at 5 to 6 minutes, UL approved for electrical sign assembly. And this product has a thinner viscosity, say, than Weld-On 30 or even SG 800. Taylor put together this bead board, which I think is a very good visual example of what we refer to as sag resistance on a vertical surface. You can see the beads that she laid down. This product, when it is applied on a vertical surface, will maintain the integrity along that vertical line without any drooping or sagging that could affect the bond line. This is a very good selling point and a very good quality aspect of the products that we make. We take sag resistance and bond line read through very, very seriously when we formulate these products, because we believe it gives you a competitive advantage, say, versus LORD or ASI. So if you aren't familiar with what sag resistance looks like, this bead board gives you a pretty good visual representation of what that looks like. At this point, I think I'll turn the presentation and the control thereof, or I'll drive. But Taylor, if you wanted to take over at this point and kind of walk us through a few more of the products, and then maybe get into some of the portion that we outlined a little earlier, you just have to let me know when you want me to move the slide forward.
Thank you, Rod. So next we're going to move into Weld-On 30 and 31. These are, again, structural 2-part MMA adhesives. I do want to point out, so the 30 and the 31, they have all of the same specifications when it comes to strength, when it comes to tensile strength, elongation, stuff like that. The main difference between these two is just the amount of working time that you have to get your parts together. If you have a smaller part that you're trying to put together, you don't need 15 minutes to get these parts together and cleaned up. You can use the Weld-On 30, which is a 4 to 5 minute product. And then if you do have larger parts, larger signs that you are building, the Weld-On 31 is better because you are having a 13 to 17 minute window to actually get the adhesive down, parts together in the right place and cleaned up before the reaction starts happening and the adhesive starts curing. Like Rod was talking about on that last slide and with that picture, this product has superior sag resistance. So if you are laying adhesive down on a substrate and you need it to stick where it needs to be, you're on a vertical wall, maybe you're upside down, this is the product that's just going to stay right where you apply it, which is great. Another benefit of using the Weld-On 30 and 31 is this material is actually, once it's cured, it's sandable and paintable. So if you have an open seam with these bondings that you're doing, you didn't quite get it completely cured out, you can just sand it down to have a smooth finish. Then you can paint right over it if you need to have the same color all the way through. I've actually seen some people in the field, if they didn't have Bondo on hand, they will actually use this product as Bondo, which works very, very well. Because this is going into more electrical sign assembly, it is UL approved, which makes it easy, just plug and play. And then this material is also an off-white color, just to kind of help match any of the structures that you are building. This next slide, I'm going to have a video of the Weld-On 30 and 31 almost in action. So what it's going to be is we laid down a joint, Just put some adhesive down, let it cure. I believe this was 45 minutes after the adhesive was laid. And then we found the biggest guy in the in the building, and he just had him pull on it to see if he could break it.
I'll go ahead with this.
Go ahead. Towards the end of the video, you see how red and shaking his arms are from trying to break this thing apart. That's how much strength you're going to get from these products. Move on to the next. All right, so next up in the line is the Weldon 46C. So this is, again, a 10-to-1 MMA structural adhesive, high strength. The reason this product was designed was to have a optically clear bond whenever you're doing, let's say you're bonding, clear acrylic to aluminum or any metals, and you want to be able to shine light through without having a visible seam. This product was designed for that. Again, low sag. It does have a shorter working time, about 6 to 9 minutes, with a fixture time being 15 to 25 minutes. So you have to be a little bit cautious when you're using this product, just to make sure all your parts are laid and in the right configuration before it really kicks. And again, we know this is going to be used in electrical sign assembly, so we have it UL approved. And this is really great for trim cap and polycarbonate lettering. Yeah, it's a great product. You can see in that photo below, you can see directly through that piece of acrylic that we bonded to a piece of aluminum. It's great for cross bonding. You can do acrylic to acrylic, acrylic to metals. Just a great product overall. Move on to the next.
I think before we move on, just one thing. I think a very good way to approach or look at Weldon 46C is it's just a clear version of 45. That might simplify it if you can't really wrap your head around what we're trying to kind of sell here, but it is a fantastic product. We've done a lot of work on this. We've got a lot of momentum with it in the States. I think if there's an opportunity to continue to push this in Canada, just as a clear version of 45, that's a very good way to frame this.
All right, so the last product we'll talk about today is not under the Weldon brand. It is actually under the SciGrip brand. But again, two-part MMA structural adhesive. It's the SG800 series. Like we were talking about with the Weldon 30 and 31, this has multiple working times. All of the specifications are the same except for that working and fixture time. This is a product that is black in color. It does pretty much everything that the Weldon 30 and 31 can do. It cross bonds metals, plastics, composites, all that kind of thing. Where this product really shines is it was designed to withstand high heats, especially heats associated with paint bake cycles and powder coating. So this product actually can take continuous heat to 140 degrees Celsius or 300 Fahrenheit, which and then intermediate exposure, which we describe intermediate exposure is 15 minutes, and then you can cool it down, and then 15 minutes again, up to 204 degrees Celsius or 400 Fahrenheit. And those are about the typical temperatures you see with paint bake and powder coat cycles. So this product is really good. Let's say you're building a frame and you have to powder coat or you have to paint bake after the frame is already together. This can withstand those temperatures. You're not going to have any, the adhesive is not going to drip out. It's not going to melt, anything like that. And again, like the 30 and 31, it is has sag resistance on vertical surfaces. Yeah, so if you hear any customers talking about high heat, this is the product to go with. We'll move on to the next. So I always like to talk a little bit about how to choose the right adhesive, the right questions to ask customers, everything like that. The more information you can get up front with a customer, the easier it is to kind of narrow down the adhesives that you're going to use, especially when it comes to structural adhesives. So first and foremost, ask what exactly are you bonding? Is it acrylic? Is it ABS, metals, polycarbonate? Is it acrylic to acrylic? Is it acrylic to metal? Are you doing cross bonding of any type? Once you have that, we can start to narrow down the ideal adhesive. So next question I always ask is just what different specifications do you have for these bondings. Like, do you want it to be a thinner viscosity so it flows a little bit better, or do you want it to be sag resistant and, you know, be able to hang up on a wall? Are these small parts or big parts? If it's a smaller part, like we were talking about, the working time can be shorter. But if it's these huge frames, we want it to be a larger working time, a longer working time, just so you have the time to get all your things in place without having to worry about the adhesive starting to cure. And then last, when it comes to specifications, is just the color of the product. You know, if it's easier to have an off-white as opposed to a black, or when it comes to the Weldon 46C, you know, is it easier to have a clear bond? That way it's less tooling afterwards, less just less handling of the final product after the adhesive is cured. One thing to keep in mind when you are dealing with MMA adhesives especially is if you are bonding pieces in a hotter environment, the working time will actually shorten a bit just because it's already at a higher temperature when the adhesive is already at a higher temperature when it starts. And the same thing, I know you guys are in Canada. If it is colder, it's actually going to take a little bit longer to reach that working time. So, you know, what you could possibly do in the winter with a 5-minute product, you might not be able to do the same thing in a high heat summer day. So just keeping that in mind, and just keeping in mind the working time is affected by the temperature. And then the last thing to consider is kind of what that 800 is talking about, is what conditions is that bonded part going to see after it's cured? Is it going to be wet? Is there going to be temperature extremes? Is there going to be any type of chemical exposures, anything like that? For the most part, most of our adhesives will handle most of this, but if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to Rod or myself, and we can help answer those questions and get you any data that you need behind that. And we'll move on to the next one. All right, and I wouldn't be a proper chemist if I didn't talk about safety when handling adhesives. We all know adhesives generally, they are chemicals, so just to protect yourself, whenever you are using any adhesives or your customers are using the proper PPE, personal protective equipment that you need is safety glasses to just ensure nothing can get into your eyes, and then gloves to just make sure you're not having any skin contact with the adhesive. If you do have a bit of skin contact, you know, accidents happens, we know, just wash the area with soap and water and you will be okay. As for environment, these adhesives all tend to have a little bit of a smell. It's a very distinct smell. It is not a hazardous smell at all, but just to avoid any just issues with having this smell around you for a long time, just make sure these adhesives are being dispensed in a well-ventilated area and not in a tight, small area. And then always read your safety data sheets to see if there are any other concerns, whether it's flammability, health hazard, corrosiveness. All that will be listed on your safety data sheet. All right, next. All right, so now we'll open it to questions. I think we had a couple pop up.
Yep. Are you able to see it, or do you want me to read them out loud?
It might be easier if you read them out loud.
Okay. So the first question is, do you have any, it's from Ricky. Do you have any adhesives to bond HDPE to HDPE?
We do. We do. Our SG400 is a low surface energy bonder. I think Taylor is very well versed with this, but it definitely will work on HDPE to HDPE as well as dissimilar material. We are still, it was designed initially to bond polypropylene. We did a rather large study on the rationale behind developing it based on polypropylene, but we're still finding greater applications. The only thing that I know of that it doesn't work well on is Delrin or acetyl. The SG400 bonds Teflon. So yes, it'll definitely work on HDPE. And we are growing the market in the United States with a number of outdoor furniture manufacturers who are bonding HDPE with SG400.
Perfect. And then the next question's from Jones Neon. It says, what studies have you done with heat and cooling cycles over long periods of time?
I guess, is that just over the lifetime of the part? I'm assuming we have done some temperature cycling in the lab, but a lot of these products have been used in the sign world for many, many years, and have seen all kinds of things, all kinds of temperature swings, all kinds of everything, and those bonds are still holding well to this day. Rod, have you?
We've got, I mean, I know most recently the testing that I have seen has been with the SG400, as I just mentioned, because specifically with the furniture manufacturers, you have their products sitting outdoors, and the thermal fluctuation of the temperature shifts in a place like, say, Arizona, or even in Canada or the northeast of the United States. It could be very hot during the day and drop down to a very, very cold temperature in areas outside of, say, Phoenix, Arizona. So we look at how the bond line performs over time in those extreme temperature fluctuations. But as Taylor alluded to, we kind of have benchmarks with respect to, say, like 45, well done 45, and then with 30 and 31 based on some of the other applications these products go into. However, if you have a specific need or question, we pointed out earlier in the presentation that our lab testing capabilities is very robust, and within reason, depending on what you're asking us to do, we can perform some decent tests that would give you a very good data sample as far as what to expect throughout a swing in temperature. So if that's something you're interested in, we'd be happy to entertain that testing. I'd have to kind of dive back in with my team as to what kind of standing data that we have at our disposal to provide you. So if that's a specific question that you have, you can either reach out to me and I can get to work on seeing what we currently have available or what we might be able to develop for you. But this is something that we do with a lot of our larger customers on a routine basis.
Perfect. And then I will answer this last one. So this one's from Mike, and it says, will you be making this webinar available to us by link or email? This is a recording, so you guys should all receive the link to the recording after it is and presentation is over, and we will also be posting this to social. So you'll be able to reference it back then too.
I do see that there is one more question that came in from Marlon, asking about the 800 and how well it performs in colder temperatures. So the 800, once it is cured, can withstand low temperatures up to -40 Celsius and also Fahrenheit. Any colder than that, it gets a little brittle, but yeah, -40 is the lower limit there.
Perfect. Okay. Any other questions? I'm not seeing any new ones. Oh, we just. Okay. I think there are no more questions. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining today.
Thank you.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, a recording link will be sent after the presentation. So everybody that's within this chat will receive it. And then we will also be posting this to socials too to further promote this. So you can relate back to this too. But thank you, Rod and Taylor, for joining us today and giving a great presentation. Thank you all for joining, and have a great day and stay warm.
Have a good
Thanks,
day.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.